got the name right, didn't I?
Close enough.
Yeah. And our first item is an update on, actually, approval of minutes. Can I have a motion?
So moved.
Support.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Great. That brings us to our first strategy, and that's the omnipresent Dale Robertson to come up and talk about.
Can you second
Mayor,
Yes.
your
yep.
mic was not on, so no
Yep, got
one
it. So,
didn't hear the meeting call.
Mr. Robertson, who's our museum director, and yes, we just approved the minutes without a microphone. So, thank you, Mr. Robinson. I could do your presentation for you. There's going to be a millage renewal for the museum, and you're in favor of it.
And I click by,
I'll open it in a second.
all right. Thank you, Mayor, City Manager, Commissioners Isasi, Kilgore. My name is Dale Robertson. I'm with the Grand Rapids Public Museum. I serve as its president, and I thank you for being able to come before you today and talk about this millage renewal update. What I'd like to do is maybe provide just a little bit of background, context, frame where we are. It's just important. There's a long history between the city and the museum. In fact, we still are owned by you. But I want to begin with, this is a shot of the dedication plaque at the old museum building at 54 Jefferson. And this really, to this day, still serves as the foundational statement that guides our organization, dedicated to the free dissemination of knowledge to all. So that means at our core, we are an educational institution, and all means all. So your first step is, it's like the group picture. When you see a group picture, what's the first thing you look for yourself? Do you see yourself in the museum as part of that? And then the all means, as an educational institution, we want to make sure that we are connecting physically and cognitively to the broadest population. And those are the core principles underlying how we do everything. So the city charter, under which you still operate today, of 1916, requires that there be a public museum. We are it. And so to this day, the city holds title to all the land, all the buildings, and all the artifacts. Founded in 1854, 4 years after the city officially became a city, we are arguably the oldest museum in the state of Michigan, the second largest, 250,000 artifacts and specimens. We have a broad and diverse collection. And uniquely, I like to say, 98% of them donated by the people of West Michigan and the city of Grand Rapids over 172 years.
Can you go back to that slide? I've got to ask you a really juvenile question. Is that a spot the differences slide? Why do we have
That is a great, all right, so I love that you asked that because I love talking about this. So that is like the forerunner of the Viewmaster. It's from a stereoscope. And what that shows is the museum collections being housed and stored at Grand Rapids High School, because before we became part of the city, we were part of GRPS.
Got it. Thank you.
Yep. So the city, of course, owns us, is now run by a nonprofit organization, the Grand Rapids Public Museum Foundation. That continued. We were a city department up until 2006. City funding ended in 2008. So during that time period between separation and city funding, there is a lease signed, a lease agreement reached between the city and the Public Museum Foundation. It's a 99-year lease with an option to renew for 50 years. And after that, and as part of all that, no annual appropriation comes from the city budget, nor is it required. We are actually a net contributor to the city budget by about $500,000 annually for the space that we occupy in the archives, and with generous support from the city for this expansion project. An expansion project really caused by need, right, with community demand. $2.5 million went to the riverfront, and just recently, just this past summer, $4.3 million for a South Tower elevator. It's hard raising money for something like an elevator, but I will tell you that is needed as much as anything. just to move people around up and down. We were on the elevator today with a whole group of from Shawmut Hills packed in there. It was delightful that they were all there, but it's like, man, do we need that 2-car elevator? So thank you for being willing to take that on behalf of us. So we preserve the stories, the community's history, science, and culture. And there are other components of the museum. I've just listed them there. A couple to point out is the archives, which we are expanding for regular community access to that. I'm not aware of any museum in the nation or anywhere in the world, frankly, that plans to provide access to these community publicly owned assets like we are in the way that we are. And of course, we are the stewards of the Indian mounds on behalf of all the tribal nations. So we have a particular role in the city. We have a strong partnership with all of the school districts in Kent County, and we have come up with some unique programs. We make sure that we are maintaining all of and care for all of our artifacts and specimens. We are the keeper of the stories. We think maybe we make decisions based on data. We don't. It's always on narrative. And we are the keeper of those stories. And also, you've assigned us responsibilities as part of the river restoration. We are the interpretation education center for all that water-related work that's going to be done. So the county millage itself was approved in 2016. It was a brand-new millage, 62% yes vote. And it allows us to provide benefits to the broader city, but entire Kent County residents. So free admission for every young person up to 17. We are able to reduce surcharges for traveling exhibits. So now one price, and actually if you're at 17 or under, you can get in anything free at the museum. Reduced admission for seniors, again, preserving artifacts, and everything we do, of course, is upfront, transparent, and actually reported to you annually through the Board of Art Museum Commission. So there's just some numbers, number of visitors, 40,000 students. We're actually turning students away. That's why we needed to do the expansion. We've got special week-long and more depth programs. And of course, for those who can't get there, we send out kits of artifacts, and we do public programs on a routine basis too. So there's a couple points here, just this slide and the next slide, that I want to dwell on for just a minute, because it said education is our core, and community partnerships is it's been a hallmark of ours. So 96 different community organizations. Everything we do is informed through seeking out partners and asking questions. If you're an educational institution, it means you've got to be a learning institution. And so we embrace that and go along with that. Now, the next couple are pretty important. Again, I argue that I don't know anybody who's doing it this way. So we have some talent we've been able to attract really through the support that we've been given by the millage. So we had a PhD, a doctor in geology, that was invited to be part of a research project in Paraguay and to then publish academic papers. We sent one of our educators. And we sent an educator so they could come back and in real time translate the legitimacy and the educational importance of high-level research in real time to our Kent County students. And then we also have taken the museum school model, which puts artifacts and specimens in kids' hands and is a combination of place-based education and design thinking, and created professional development that then we make available to teachers, not just in Grand Rapids, Kent County, but the entire region. And another one on that line that works, I think is important to point out, is the Grand Rapids Public Museum School is another one unique in the nation. In the museum, using artifacts and specimens in the way that we do it, place-based education, design thinking. Lorene Powell Jobs, the widow of Steve Jobs, created something called the XQ Super School Project, and there was a nationwide contest, over 750 schools. We competed, we won, but that $10 million prize went to GRPS, directly to GRPS. So that's our role as an educator and as a true community advocate and supporter that we happily did that. As part of that whole creation of the high school, the old museum building was turned back into, was repurposed as a school. In exchange, the city received Ted Raspberry Field and Ottawa Hills Park, and we were proud and happy to be part of that, of that change. So, renewal status, 10 years, it ends in 2026. We have petitioned jointly with the zoo to the county to put the millage back on the ballot, same terms, 10 years, 50-50 split, including at the Headley rollback rate. So it's not a, go back up, it's truly a renewal. It's been a millage review subcommittee. They had an analysis presented to them last week by Plant Moran that showed solid, stable, and well-managed organization, which the Public Museum is. So, 26 and beyond, I won't here, we keep going, grow, strengthen, engage more. And then finally, I just want to end with, Jen, some of just the public benefit and some of the stability that exists because of the millage. First of all, let me just say that because the city owns us, the value of all of our assets, all the land, all the buildings, all the collections appears on the city's balance sheet, not on ours. So the lease agreement provides, it's a shared stewardship, but you can see of our annual budget, $7.5 million comes from the millage. It's critical. The millage changed everything. It was the millage that allowed us to get to this place where I never expected when it passed in 2016 that we'd be expanding. But it allowed us to get to a point where the community demand rose so much that we needed to meet that demand and also fulfill our obligations that you assigned us from the GR Forward Master Plan. So our goal eventually is to not have to ever have the millage, but we've got to grow our endowment, we've got to continue to work and do what we want to do. So our goal is to have a well-funded, well-maintained, and healthy endowment. And so right now we're taking no draw at all out of the endowment for the entirety of the millage with that possibility. And then finally, it is to say that the millage dollars are critical just for us to be able to deliver these core programs, our core responsibilities to the community. No millage, everything changes. So it is absolutely critical. I know what it's like to not have the millage. I was there for the first 8 years of my career. It has changed everything. And as a publicly owned institution, it is appropriate for us to receive public dollars just like schools and publicly owned schools, public libraries, and so forth. So, Mayor, Manager, members of the Commission, that's what I've got, and I thank you for the opportunity and can answer questions. I also have my colleagues with me, so if there's more specific things, we've got the brain trust here.
So I'll say a couple things as a consumer. Well, one thing as a consumer, and the other as a part of the visioning process for the city. One thing I'll say as a consumer is I think it's always worth pointing out that the Grand Rapids, if you go to a big museum in New York City, you don't see a lot of stuff about New York. Maybe you see mastodons, but you could be anywhere. The scale of the museum may be different, but you see lots of dioramas and exhibits, and here's a whale and all that stuff. But it always strikes me. You can't escape when you go into the Grand Rapids Museum, seeing the connection to the furniture industry and the Lego reconstruction of the city, which my grandkids always want to go to, and so do I, which actually changes over time. But so I think the museum does a great job of having its mission being show not just stuff but the history of our city, and I think that's great, and it's really it's unusual, frankly, how well you do that. The other thing I'll say is, and this is for the for all the people back home, our transformational sort of agenda to turn the river from a nuisance to an asset, not something that we put behind barrier walls and hope it doesn't breach the walls, but into something that's really, really a core part of the community. Well, the museum has been front and center on that, and so you don't just face the road; you really do face the museum. And when it was built, there wasn't nearly I mean, there was potential to be engaging in the museum, in the riverfront, but you're doing that in a whole different way. It's really key to education. And so the ongoing success of that really is part of the ongoing success of our ability to make the river relevant. So you're part of a much broader effort and pulling in the same direction. So millage renewal, to allow you to be part of that work, is actually an investment in the broader community. It's not just an investment in the museum. So I just wanted to layer on your presentation and make those points. So, City Manager?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Dale, and our partners from the museum for being here. Just to highlight a couple things. It is our public museum, and we appreciate the partnership and helping us to operate and maintain that asset. And certainly the countywide millage is very important. I'll come back to that, but I just want to remind the public, as you appropriately highlighted, we had to dig deep for almost $7 million. And I remember those, well, initially it only started as a couple of million, and Dale was Dale. and here we are, $7 million later. But this millage is important because I don't have another $7 million. So that, if this millage is not successful, that is the operating costs.
Correct.
That we would be faced to try to fund it. It would be another challenge like the courts. We would be subsidizing it with additional funds from the general fund. So I appreciate the revenue source, the revenue stream that the millage provides to help us continue to operate the museum.
Cool. Okay, well, thanks so much, Dale.
All right, thank you.
Appreciate it. And that brings us to our second item, and I brought up the wrong agenda sheet with me, so.
It's the emerging developer.
The emerging developer grant, and who's going to speak to us about that? Ms. Bernera? Great. And this is an update for us on ongoing work.
Good afternoon. Okay, so this is an update on our emerging developer grant programming, and I want to just be straightforward that this is a subset of a presentation that went before our Brownfield Redevelopment Authority Board on January 28th. So, excuse me. And want to thank Commissioner Yasasi for her participation on that board and insights into this work. So just wanted to give you a broad overview of what the program is so that we're all operating from the same foundation. We started this programming in 2023. It's really focused on providing more support to new and emerging developers for pre-development expenses that are necessary to obtain site plan approval. So ultimately getting more faces in the pipeline of real estate development. We focused on mixed use and multifamily housing projects. This funding is housed under our Brownfield Redevelopment Authority and specifically the revolving loan fund from that work. And so if you think of the life cycle of a TIF plan, the last 5 years are dedicated to reimbursement to the revolving loan fund. And so those dollars that are coming back each year help provide dollars towards this effort. These are the items that the programming could be used for. So site planning, environmental site assessment grants, surveying, architectural services, engineering, as well as pre-development consulting work. We found that architectural services constituted most of what we've invested in. It took up a pretty good portion of the pie chart when we're looking at the different categories here. We don't account for legal fees or financing fees or market studies. And we don't look back more than a year on these investments. We define an emerging developer as a person with limited experience in development and may be supported by a network of more experienced development professionals or an organized program such as the Equitable Development Cohort that the Urban League led this last year. And we also look for opportunities to partner with more experienced developers or development companies in the area. I want to also add on to this that when you're thinking about the definition of a developer, we're looking at how much ownership they have into a deal as well. So both ownership and the financial risk reward, we look for at least 25% of that individual to be invested in the entity. This gives you a little bit of context on where projects have been approved to date. I've got more data on the next slide, but you can broadly see that we've got 10 projects in Ward 1, 4 in Ward 2, and 8 in Ward 3. This is my additional data. If you're looking for investment dollars, we have a total of 22 grant awards over the life cycle of the programming. So again, going back to 2023, which totals roughly $3.1 million across those fiscal years. You can see the breakdown by category in the wards, both on, again, those number of projects as well as the investments, so ranging from $560,500 in Ward 2 up to $1.6 million roughly in Ward 1. I want to just annotate the bottom half of this slide, as these are potential end results. So, ultimately we're investing in ideas, and the journey that the emerging developer is taking to gut check the idea is either going to result in a project or not, right? And so what we've been presented with is approximately 211,000 square feet of potential redevelopment space coming online, 335 potential residential units, which equates to total project cost average being roughly $4.7 million across those 22 projects, right? So wide range of projects. We've got projects up to 52 residential units down to 2 units. So it's a pretty good spread of development that we've seen. Again, this is since inception. So of the 22 projects that I mentioned on the last slide, we have 10 projects that we've approved for a brownfield plan in tax increment financing or are under active construction. We've got another 10 projects that have been approved or are working towards approval at the state level, or other local approvals like abatements. And then we've got 2 projects that are stalled due to unforeseen circumstances. I'm just going to round up and say we have 4 projects completed, again, since inception. As those are coming online, the last one being in April would be 1516 Cesar Chavez, which will be about 70% complete. So I'm going to just call that complete. Okay, I'm going to round up. This chart is meant to show you just the demand over the last couple of years. We had 2 projects that first year, and it's jumped up. You can see all the way to the approvals this fiscal year, just the first 6 months of the fiscal year being 9 projects, and then we have another 9 in queue. So I'm trying to demonstrate that while we've closed applications to really assess the programming, that we have a lot of demand here, and excited about the opportunities to partner and bring more developers into the pipeline. But really, this is an unsustainable model given the limited dollars that we have with the revolving loan fund. So the recommended next steps, we're taking the next few months to evaluate the existing investments. So while some are under construction and some are working towards state dollars, which candidly are really hard to get now, we want to know how we're doing here. We want to ultimately be cultivating more projects with more faces, but we also want to understand the barriers that these individuals might be facing throughout the real estate process. We anticipate updating the program guidelines, which are very broad-based at the moment, and so adding a little bit more content to those as far as what are we really getting at for an emerging developer definition. Do we have caps on these dollars? Do we want to limit what we're funding, right? There's a whole bucket under our revolving loan fund that is for environmental site assessments. So, funding them maybe first and then doing an emerging developer grant might make more sense. But ultimately, we've welcomed the 9 in queue to remain in queue, and we're keeping them folded into communication as we evaluate the programming. We also anticipate looking at the upcoming budget cycle. Again, these dollars are coming in every year based on completion of projects, right? And so it's kind of hard to estimate where we'll be, but we want to take some time with the budget, and we also want to be thoughtful about the partners that we've worked with on to date, partners including the state and potentially private investors. And then finally, looking at how we might be able to partner with the Affordable Housing Fund. And so it's my impression there's a subcommittee on that fund that's dedicated to emerging developers, and so there might be some opportunities for partnership there. And then finally, proposing a timeline and process for releasing any future application announcements. Those are really the next steps that we foresee. We anticipate pulling our subcommittee together to evaluate really just these, the outputs here from this slide, and making a recommendation closer to the new fiscal year in '27. So I'm happy to take any questions. I was trying to keep it high level and yet give you detail, so.
Yeah, I had a couple quick questions. One
Sure.
is, so people who are in this program, is this sort of a one and done thing? I mean, you're using the word emerging, right? Like, essentially, what this does is give people about 8% off their construction costs. I mean, that's just doing the back of the napkin math. Like this year, they can spend this money on things that they would otherwise have to spend money on, like environmental stuff and architectural stuff. So we're sort of subsidizing projects. So the first question is like, how many times do you get to say you're an emerging developer and still get this 8% off?
We don't define that.
Okay, and then the next question would be, are you tracking whether those people are in fact one-off or whether they're, I mean,
Doing more than one deal?
right, I mean,
Yeah.
for example, if I open I developed a bar over on the corner of Division and Cherry. Well, I don't have any plans to make any other bars, but like, if I had said, hey, I'm an emerging developer, then I could maybe have gotten into this program, right? So
Sure.
Developers are different than people who want to do stuff, who own land and want to
Yes.
make something on it.
Yes,
right?
I mean, very much on the premise of these will eventually be a brownfield plan project. And so, I mean, we'd like to see repeat developers, but I would carve out that example as a separate thought. So again, that to me is just kind of shaping our guidelines a little bit differently potentially going forward.
I think I think that is a really good question, Mayor. That's really what the Brownfield has been, grappling with is, obviously the immense interest, but also where are the potential holes that, we're trying to spread this across. We want to spread it across to different wards. There's, I would say a core group of people who have come in as those mentors and those organizations. We kind of see the typical faces in that. So I know that's definitely been, that's been the question. And, I just would also add here, probably the biggest question that I've gotten when I'm looking at these things is like the overall capital stack. So, they're kind of coming to us, as you mentioned, state dollars, whether they be, LIHTC dollars or, people have to go up to the Michigan Strategic Fund. I mean, all these things from your past life. And so, I think my concern here too, we heard from some individuals like, why did you guys stop it? And like anything, it's not a guarantee forever and ever, right? It's going to be based on budget and all of these other considerations. So I just appreciate a lot of the communication. I know our CIAs have been, actively engaged in this communication as well, to make sure people know that it's not that we want to stop it, but we want to be able to utilize it in the best way possible. And I think if I the affordable housing projects, those were all competitive awards, right, Ms. Behrens, where this has been, first come, first serve. So I think that's also like, I'm getting the thumbs up. So I think that's what we're also trying to do, Mayor, to your point, is how do we make it easy for developers working in this city and make sure there's sort of some continuity across these different incentives. So those are just a couple of the feedback points from the Brownfield body.
Thank you.
Cool. Okay, well, thanks.
Just one.
Go ahead. You're both
Yeah,
grabbing for
yeah, we
microphones,
both were
so-
talking off.
Yes.
Would
Would we be able to utilize Third Ward equity funds to supplement this program?
for businesses in the third ward?
so region specific.
So potentially, that goes back to the color of money question. So fiscal year 2025, we had already earmarked a portion of those funds for small business support, separate from developers, so more generic small business support, and are in the process of working out an agreement with the Economic Development Corporation to have a program where they create that revolving loan fund. If we were to separate, we'd have to consult with city attorney, but there may be ways to structure a fiscal year 26 or 27 allocation of third ward equity funds through the Brownfield Authority, but we'd have to see if the state statute about
Fun
how you can
stuff,
spend
yes.
general fund monies would allow for us to transfer for specific purposes like that. And actually, in our next update, we were going to kind of give you a snapshot of where we stand with fiscal year 26 and what we're recommending there. So more
Thank
to
you
come.
so much, Ms. Behrens, and I think that would be good. I know my colleague in the Third Ward, Commissioner Perdue, has been very intentional and focused upon helping small businesses, emerging developers, and I think that may be a good avenue. So if we can continue to look into that, in my very non-lawyer understanding, it would be a public use for everyone, right? If they're public projects versus some of the things that we were thinking, if they needed things inside, plumbing, roofs, and things that maybe wouldn't benefit the public as a whole. But yeah, would love if we continue to explore that. Thank you.
City Manager, you had? No. Okay. Thanks, Mr. Renero. Okay, that brings us on to mural discussion.
Hello, Commissioners, City Manager, Mayor. This is a quick update on the Third Ward Mural Initiative. I've been to this body previously to talk about this, but happy to have a Third Ward Commissioner at the dais today to talk about it even more. So this mural project was also out of the Third Ward Equity Fund. This is to bring art to the Third Ward. There's a separate project, the Third Ward Cultural Tour, that the Grand Rapids African American Museum and Archives is working on in partnership with the city and Muse. They will be here in March to give a full update on their work. They are going to show at least 3 working sites on this Third Ward tour within the app that they've contracted with. So I'm looking forward to seeing that next month. So that piece is in flight, and they're working towards the goals that are in the contract. But this mural project allocates $50,000 to the full cost of a mural, including a project manager and funding for the artists. This is in alignment with many of the plans and opportunities we have here at the City of Grand Rapids, the strategic plan, Third Ward Equity. This promotes the Third Ward identity. It's placemaking. There's economic development opportunities with art in this mural specifically. So on Thursday, so here's some of those key partners. We have Grandma there, as I mentioned earlier, local artists and residents, and then the city manager has a arts and advisory committee that advises him. And any mural that you can see from the public right away, they would come to the archives and make a recommendation to the city manager on whether or not that should be approved. And that's all a part of the ordinances and city commission policies, but they're also going to help with the selection of the artist, and they've also helped me in creation of this RFP. So, and I also need to mention that the Southtown Corridor Improvement Authority, we are trying to be intentional. We are trying to put the tour and the mural in some of our corridors, because that leads to a lot more opportunities, including additional funding that could be allocated through the Southtown corridor if they so choose. So this RFP is seeking a project manager to help the city not only find an artist that can do a mural, but also to find buildings in the Third Ward and property owners in the Third Ward that would be open to hosting a mural in the future. And the RFP, not to get into the nitty-gritty, but what the RFP seeks to do is to find that project manager, and what that project manager would do once we work out the contracting specifically with the city and the project manager, but what that project manager would do would work with GRAMA to do a series of engagement activities to find out some more history about the Third Ward, and to have a conversation and facilitation of who might be worthy to be honored in this Third Ward mural. And it doesn't have to be a specific person. It could also be a theme that resonates. But we will be working with the community to find out who those potential subjects are. And so, again, getting back to the RFP, not only are the buildings going to be selected, but artists will show their we'll do an RFQ for the artists, and then those artists will be matched up with potential sites, and then we'll choose which mural to do. But what we'll be left with, though, in the next 6 months is a mural in the Third Ward, and also we'll have at least some designs and maybe some other businesses and building owners that would also be interested in having a mural on their buildings, too. So I'm happy to answer any questions, but I will say the RFP will be available on the city's website, on the art advisory portion of the website on February 12th, and looking forward to getting this work and seeing a nice mural in the Third Ward, another nice mural in the Third Ward, because there's already some nice murals there.
Thank you.
Be happy to answer any questions.
Okay,
Thank you.
great. Thanks for the update.
And I'm sorry, Commissioner Kilgore, I will be talking to the Southtown Corridor tomorrow.
Okay.
And so I'll update your colleagues and other constituents there, too.
Wonderful, thank you. I did want to just give us I know we're going to have many conversations, more to my colleagues, Mr. Kane, thank you, about Third Ward Equity Fund. We haven't started that part yet, have we? That was, yeah, I'll let you, and then I'll go.
Okay, perfect. That's just a snapshot for this group, not intended to be a long discussion, but just a reminder of the work we had committed to or done in fiscal year 25. So Mr. Kane was just here speaking of the cultural investments that are being made out of the fiscal year 2025 allocation. And we had programmed and spent about another $125,000 out of fiscal year 25 for summer youth programming investments. We have two projects we're going to be pursuing this construction year. You'll see them listed there as pedestrian improvements, pedestrian safety improvements in those two areas. And then I just talked a little bit about the small business support through a revolving loan fund structure that we are negotiating now with the Economic Development Corporation. So that is what we have earmarked and where we are at with fiscal year 2025. Also a snapshot of fiscal year 2026. And we are recommending the allocations that are shown here. So a couple we have talked to this body about before. One is the Southtown position. So a couple months ago, I want to say, maybe November even, maybe even as long ago as November, we were here having a conversation about some momentum building across a number of public entities, including the Southtown CIA and the city, but also private entities interested in having a shared position that would be focused, really laser focused on trying to get those catalytic type of investments in the Third Ward that would help many of us materialize around some of the economic development goals and objectives that are stated in strategic plans and area-specific plans and a number of other things. So we have earmarked a dollar amount there. The city has softly committed. Obviously, the city commission will ultimately need to approve an agreement that would lay out the scope of work for this position and the terms of governance of the position. But the city had softly committed to carry the first 12 months, I guess, cost of that, and would do that out of the Third Ward Equity Fund. So we're holding an amount of money to be able to fulfill that commitment when the agreement is finalized and brought forward. We are also earmarking a significant amount for infrastructure improvements. So if you recall from the previous year, and I feel like it was the end of the year performance report, we did a little bit of a deeper dive about the Third Ward Equity Fund, sort of the history of it, and the challenges as we move from ARPA funding as the source of revenue to general taxpayer dollars, what that tells us about what we are able to spend those dollars on. And we made a staff recommendation to focus on some of those gaps in traditional infrastructure spending. So we're earmarking more here for those kinds of safety improvements and other enhancements in the public, kind of more traditional public investments, and currently are focusing on a request from the Third Ward Commissioners to explore opportunities in the Kalamazoo corridor. So I do not have a final list of projects that we would recommend or budget, but we're just an earmark that allows us to be able to do some impactful things there is what is suggested here in this spreadsheet. And then continuing on the support for the summer programming. So that programming was successful. Grow 1000 was able, through the specific earmark for the Third Ward, was able to support some different businesses having access to those interns, as well as the job opportunities that represents for our youth, and also some of the summer programming that was handled through Office of Equity and Engagement. Successful, and having stability in funding for those kinds of programs is important. So again, we are recommending that we would continue that at roughly the same level of support for fiscal year 26. So that's what we are recommending for that. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions. Obviously, more to come on all of those things as we negotiate agreements and find projects and finalize budgets.
Just a quick question. That wasn't in the packet though, right? But was this one sent to us?
No, I'm sorry. I was just planning on doing a verbal update, and then Mr. Kane suggested that maybe something with a little more meat on the bones would be helpful for you all. So I appreciate his shout out and assistance on this one.
If you can forward it, I think that, again, like we know that, the things we vote on, it's just kind of good. This was a really good visual for me. So thank you.
Yes.
Okay, Commissioner.
Good snapshot, and I really appreciate this. And so what I'm really focusing on, I'm happy we had a more formal discussion around this, because I really want us to have some serious movement here. A lot of concerned constituents on that Kalamazoo corridor. Now, this amount that you have, the 600 to 675 thousand, was that for the street lights, or does this account for the beacons?
This is just a placeholder. I have asked Mobile GR to help us identify, kind of from their professional perspective and all the things that we know and the lists we maintain and the feedback we've heard, sort of what would be the most impactful suite of projects to put together for approximately this amount of money. So more details would come forward in the future.
Yeah, I will be interested to see, because of the advocacy that we've seen from constituents. It was in line with Mobile GR's ranking, right, of priorities. So I look forward to that. Do you know when we'll have a more formal update?
I don't. I will get back to you. I would imagine we'll bring it back to this body, but I hesitate to commit to whether it's March or April at this point.
Before
so
the,
I will let you know.
Budget season. Gotcha. Okay, thank you very much.
Thanks. That brings us to Development Center.
Good afternoon, and thank you for this opportunity to present the Development Center update. One operational note I want to make, just so that you're all aware, is on February 27th, that's a Friday at 4 p.m., we are going to be migrating our permitting software to the new cloud environment that Acela has provided us, which means it will be shut down for that weekend. So just in case you hear of any concerns related to that, that is what's going on. And we are going to be back up and running, assuming all goes perfectly well, by Monday morning. In addition to that, we are continuing to monitor our inspection services demand, and happy to report out that on most of our trades, we are within 1 to 2 days of getting the inspections, with the exception of our mechanical. And that's about 2 weeks out in one specific zone, as we're trying to balance that workload out across the different departments. And then just wanted to highlight a couple projects, specifically in the Third Ward. We have a 24-unit multifamily building that was approved on Breton Road. And with that, I'll open up to any questions.
Great. got the report, got the data, so I don't know that there's anything particular to say.
Very good.
No crisis is a good report.
That's right.
So,
Thank you.
Thanks. All right, thanks. I think we can adjourn a little early. Thanks, everyone.